Philippines summons China envoy over standoff. Senior doctors in South Korea to submit resignations. North Korean leader Kim touts war preparations. Nearly 300 abducted schoolchildren in northwest Nigeria freed. Who is Shohei Ohtani's interpreter? Ippei Mizuhara. Paris waiters race through the streets.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Tuesday, March 26th, and here are your top stories. The Philippines summoned China's envoy on Monday to protest against aggressive actions in the South China Sea at the weekend, as Manila's defense minister dared Beijing to bolster its vast sovereignty claims by taking them to international arbitration. The foreign ministry accused China's Coast Guard of using water cannon against a civilian boat supplying troops on Saturday at the Second Thomas Shoal, which it said damaged the boat and injured some crew, in the latest in a succession of flare-ups in the past year.
China's continued interference with the Philippines' routine and lawful activities in its own exclusive economic zone, EEZ, is unacceptable, the Philippine Foreign Ministry said in a statement, which announced the charged affairs of the Chinese embassy had been summoned and a diplomatic protest lodged in Beijing. It infringes upon the Philippines' sovereign rights and jurisdiction, it said, demanding Chinese vessels leave the area. China's Coast Guard said on Saturday it took necessary measures against Philippine vessels that were intruding in its waters. China claims almost the entire South China Sea as its own, including the Second Thomas Shoal, which is within the Philippines' 200-mile EEZ.
Senior doctors at major hospitals in South Korea began submitting their resignations en masse Monday in support of medical interns and residents who have been on a strike for 5 weeks over the government's push to sharply increase medical school admissions. About 12,000 interns and medical residents have faced impending suspensions of their licenses over their refusal to end their strikes, which have caused hundreds of canceled surgeries and other treatments at their hospitals.
The senior doctors' action won't likely cause an immediate worsening of hospital operations in South Korea because they have said they would continue to work even after submitting their resignations. But prospects for an early end to the medical impasse were also dim, as the doctors' planned action comes after President Yoon Suk-yeol called for talks with doctors while suggesting a possible softening of punitive steps against the striking junior doctors. They oppose the government's plan to increase the country's medical school admission cap by 2/3, saying schools can't handle such a steep increase in students and that it would eventually hurt South Korea's medical services. But officials say more doctors are urgently needed because South Korea has a rapidly aging population and its doctor-to-population ratio is one of the lowest in the developed world.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un supervised a tank exercise and encouraged his armed forces to sharpen war preparations in the face of growing tensions with South Korea, the North State media said Monday. Kim made those comments Sunday while visiting his top tank group, the Seoul Ryukyung-soo Guard's 105th Tank Division. The unit's name marks how it was the first North Korean military unit to reach the South Korean capital in 1950, when a North Korean surprise attack triggered a war that dragged on for almost 4 years.
Tensions on the Korean peninsula have heightened after Kim in past months dialed up his military demonstrations, including tests of nuclear-capable missiles designed to target South Korea, the United States, and Japan, while issuing threats of nuclear conflict against its rivals. Last week, North Korea conducted a live fire drill of large-size multiple rocket launchers designed to target Seoul and also claimed a successful engine test in its efforts to build a new intermediate-range hypersonic missile, which would be aimed at remote U.S. targets in the Pacific, including the military hub of Guam. There are concerns North Korea could further dial up pressure in what is an election year in both the United States and South Korea.
Nearly 300 kidnapped Nigerian school children have been released, local officials said Sunday, more than 2 weeks after the children were seized from their school in the northwestern state of Kaduna and marched into the forests. At least 1,400 students have been kidnapped from Nigerian schools since 2014, when Boko Haram militants kidnapped hundreds of schoolgirls from Borno State's Chibok village in 2014. In recent years, abductions have been concentrated in the country's northwestern and central regions, where dozens of armed groups often target villagers and travelers for ransom.
Kaduna State Governor Yuba Sani did not give details of the release of the 287 students abducted from their school in the remote town of Kuriga on March 7, at least 100 of them aged 12 or younger. In a statement, he thanked Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, particularly ensuring that the abducted school children are released unharmed. Tinubu had vowed to rescue the children without paying a dime as ransom. But ransoms are commonly paid for kidnappings, often arranged by families, and it is rare for officials in Nigeria to admit to the payments. No group has claimed responsibility for the Kaduna kidnapping, which locals have blamed on bandit groups known for mass killings and kidnappings for ransom in the conflict-battered northern region, most of them former herders in conflict with settled communities.
Ippei Mizuhara made a name for himself working as an interpreter in the baseball world, but his career shot to a new level when he paired with Los Angeles Dodgers megastar Shohei Ohtani. Now he's at the center of a major MLB scandal. Mizuhara has been fired as Ohtani's attorneys say the athlete was the victim of a massive theft in a case tied to sports gambling, and the MLB has opened an investigation. While details are still coming to light, here is everything we know about Mizuhara 39.
Mizuhara met Ohtani when he went to Japan to work as an interpreter for the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters of Japan's Nippon Professional Baseball League, Nippon.com reported. Ohtani had joined the team as a rookie in 2013. This week's scandal first surfaced via reports by the Los Angeles Times and ESPN. ESPN reported that Mizuhara was fired after media questions that centered on the scandal. A source with knowledge of Ohtani and Mizuhara's interactions told NBC News that the allegations centered on a number of wire transfers totaling $4.5 million from Ohtani's account that were paid to a bookmaking operation out of Southern California that is under federal investigation. The Dodgers said March 20th the team was aware of media reports and are gathering information, and confirmed Mizuhara was terminated.
France's capital resurrected a 110-year-old race for its waiters and waitresses Sunday. The dash through central Paris celebrated the dexterous and, yes, by their own admission, sometimes famously moody men and women without whom France wouldn't be France. Why? Because they make France's cafes and restaurants tick. Without them, where would the French gather to put the world to rights over drinks and food? And where else could they simply sit and let their minds wander? They have penned songs and poems about their bistros, so attached are they to their unpretentious watering holes that for generations have nourished their bodies and souls.
And one which has a big job ahead, taking the food orders and quenching the thirsts of millions of visitors who will flock to the Paris Olympics this July. The resurrection of the waitering race after a 13-year hiatus is part of Paris's efforts to bask in the Olympic spotlight and put its best foot forward for its first Summer Games in 100 years. The first waiters' race was run in 1914. This time, a couple of hundred of waiters and waitresses dressed up in their uniforms, with the finest sporting bow ties, and loaded up their trays with the regulation pastry, small but empty, coffee cup and full glass of water for the 1.25-mile loop starting and finishing at City Hall.
The answer for yesterday was A, speculation. Today's announcement ends months of speculation about the company's future. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of Philippines summons China envoy over standoff. Number 1. Infringe, 侵犯侵害合法权益. She refused to answer questions that infringe on her private affairs. Number 2. Intrude, 闯入侵入打扰. I'm sorry to intrude, but I need to talk to someone. Number 3. Interference, 干涉干预介入. They resent foreign interference in the internal affairs of their country. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune in to Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I will see you next time.